All right, hello everybody. Um, Welcome back to our Thursday night book review. Just gonna give it a couple seconds for everybody to jump in, and then we'll get started. I hope everybody's doing good tonight so far. Um, I just wanted to say thank you guys for joining us again. We're gonna jump in just a second, and we're gonna start talking about um, the book The Souls of Paradise by myself. Um, when we left off last time, we left off reading chapters 2 and 3. Tonight we're going to do Easter eggs on chapters 4 and 5. Stormy, hello. Okay, so chapter 4 is called Where Am I? So in this chapter, basically what's happening is Stella's in a dreamlike state and she's following her sister, and her sister leads her to a pizza place. And when she goes behind the pizza place, she finds sorry about that. She finds some blood scattered about in the back and also a locket. When she finds the locket and looks at it under further examination, she notices it is a locket that was given to her sister from her sister's boyfriend at that time. Then, after she finds the locket, she manages to find a black garbage bag in the shape of a body and a girl hunched over crying near it. And there's a foul smell in the air. So, to go into that a little bit deeper, Stella is talking about how the dreamlike state for her and stuff like that is something similar to the extent of taking acid. And if you've never taken it before, it's almost like when, everything is just normal and then like someone just takes the wipe and just wipes it and it's completely different, like the world around you. So she's just basically giving that description, talking about it. So that was a nod to, obviously, I had tried it when I was younger. So, only someone who has taken something like that can actually understand that, it feels like something's off, but it is reality, but you could just feel that something is just not correct. So I made that nod when she's talking about that. The pizzeria that she's going up to is actually called Pomodoro's. I gave that as an homage to a good restaurant actually in the town that I work, which is also has the same exact name. So that's where I got the idea for Pomodoro's from. In the book, Stella is talking about how her and a bunch of friends and stuff like that used to hang out behind the pizzeria, and there was a worker there whose name was Raul, and he would get them cigarettes and beer and stuff like that and bring it out to them, and they would kind of just hang out back there. That was actually based off of a man that I used to work with named Fernando when I worked at a restaurant. He actually used to do the same thing for us. It was a group of my friends and stuff. We all worked at the same restaurant, and, and the after hours came and stuff like that. He would get us that from the walk-in and stuff, or, we would go hang out with him and some of the other cooks over at his house, and we would all be drinking there. So that was just a time in my life that I actually wanted to incorporate into the book because it was, it went on for about a year and a half. Now, this one's a little bit deeper. So when Stella finds the locket, it's a heart-shaped locket, and on it, it has the initials CM plus PR on it. Now, her sister's name is Cecile Morgan, and her boyfriend's name is Patrick Roosevelt. But the reason why I wanted to put the CM plus PR in it, not only because it was their initials, but because I wanted to hide an Easter egg actually in the book. Now, I haven't really talked to anybody about this, so I'm sure Stormy doesn't even know this, but the CM plus PR was because at the time when I was adding this together, I was still thinking about what I wanted to do with this book. So, I knew I wanted to make it longer than the first one. I was trying to aim for a 3-part series, but, at that time, I'd only thought about the second one. So the homage or the nod that I was paying to is that CM, PR, Call Me, Paradise Reborn. So I put that little hidden thing in there not only as a reminder, because it was around the time I came up with the name for the second book, but it also fit into obviously the characters' names and stuff. But Call Me Paradise Reborn. Okay, now when Stella finds the locket and stuff like that, you can tell that she doesn't actually care for Patrick all that much, her sister's boyfriend at that time of her passing. So she talks about like how he got her this necklace and she thought it was kind of like cliche and kind of cheap, that he just got a basic locket and went to like a jewelry store that you would find on a kiosk in the mall and, got it engraved. So she talks about how, that kind of gift giving isn't sentimental whatsoever. It's cliche. Like, it doesn't show that you care at all. I mean, basically anybody that can go out and buy like a dozen roses for somebody or a heart-shaped necklace. Like, there's not a lot of thought behind it and stuff like that. And that actually is a reference to one of my very first relationships with my ex-wife. We started dating when like I was 16. So, I would get her a gift or something like that, something small, and she would get upset and say there was really no thought behind that. Like, you have to be creative. Like, you have to actually try, like, make it unique, do something and stuff like that. So from that point on, it set my standards pretty high when gifting, especially to someone when I'm in a relationship. So I wanted to give that nod because it definitely changed my perception on being in a relationship and how to, gift things to people and show that you care and stuff. And then over the years, throughout my various relationships, I got more creative in my gift giving and stuff. So I gave that as a nod from Stella's mouth, basically what I was told when I was younger. Now, the last like Easter egg in this chapter, because this one, again, this book, I didn't make the chapters super, super long. They were only, about 10 pages mostly each because I was getting my feel for writing and stuff like that. So with this one, the last thing that she describes, Stella describes that when she smells the bag that's laying there before she knows what's in it and stuff like that, she says it made her vomit basically like the first time that she drank vodka. Now, I made that obviously as a little Easter egg from my first time. When I was, I think, 16, I had tried vodka for the first time. I was with a buddy, and I worked on a pig farm. And when we were working together on the pig farm, he had me try chewing tobacco for the first time. And then in that same day, one of his older friends and stuff like that came with this like really expensive vodka. And, we drank for the first time. And me and him actually wound up outside of his bedroom window throwing up most of the night. So I wanted to put that in there as a little nod to that, because that was just like an important thing in my life where, things started shifting and I started, doing different things. So that's basically chapter 4 in a nutshell. Chapter 5, it's similar. There's not a super, super lot of information, but there was a couple things that I was going to read from it so you could get an understanding about where it's coming from and why I said those things. So chapter 5 is actually called Broken Porcelain. Now, the name of it is based off of the girl that Stella runs into in this dreamlike state, basically. She's wearing a porcelain type mask. And when she meets her, they have a lot of heavy dialogue. It's the first time that dialogue is very heavy in this book, but it's not the last time. And when she's talking to her and stuff like that, the other character decides to start fighting with Stella, and inevitably Stella defeats it and then wakes up from her dream or falls out of this dreamlike state that she's in. Now, the name The Broken, the way I came up with it is because one of the things I'm a big fan of is the Metal Gear Solid series. With that being said, Metal Gear Solid 3 is my absolute favorite, and if you've ever played the game, in it, all of the different soldiers of the Cobra unit carry an emotion with them into battle. And my basic, ever since I played that game when I was a lot younger, I really was into the Sorrow. And I've used it as my gamer tag still to this day. It was just a character that I latched onto pretty heavily and still, again, represent to this day. So I wanted to give a nod to that by creating an emotion that came with that character. And that's where I came up with The Broken. Now, the look of The Broken, talking about how she's in like ripped and dirty clothes and stuff like that, but yet she's wearing a porcelain mask with cracks all in it and stuff like that. The idea came to me that in my head, the way I was picturing it was that if you've ever played another game called Twisted Metal Black, which was another huge part of my childhood, was a Twisted Metal series. In that, you have Dollface, who's driving Darkseid's truck in Twisted Metal Black, and she also was a character that had a porcelain type mask like nailed onto her head. And in my head, when I was creating this character, that's what I was thinking in my head, because I always thought that was just a unique concept. And when people think of porcelain, they think of it as like perfect and pristine. But then you see, older porcelain dolls and stuff like that, and they have the cracks, like a lot of horror movies and stuff. And personally, I find it to be creepy. So, I wanted to add that level of horror to it as well. And that's where I got that from. Now, I was going to read a little bit, but it's a dialogue, it's a conversation. So I'll say with one character saying, I'll pause for a moment, and I'll say what the other character's saying. So just to give you a glimpse of the dialogue that's going on between the two characters, Stella begins talking, and she's talking to the Broken. And what she says is, as she notices looking down, she notices that there's fresh cuts on her arm. And she says, "Are those cuts fresh? Do you need some help?" To which the Broken replies with, "The wounds themselves are deeper than you see on the surface. The pain will always be everlasting, whether you see it or not. Trying to hide who you are becomes comical after a while, doesn't it?" Stella says, "What do you mean by that?" To which the Broken responds, "We live every day holding back what's real, hiding behind the mask we force ourselves to wear. It's almost like putting on a routine show for all the world to see. I don't have to hide who I am anymore because of how beautiful my mask is. The people around me will only see the outer beauty rather than confronting my inner beauty." And Stella says, "I don't understand what you're talking about." The Broken replies, "Of course you don't. Or of course you do, even if you won't admit it. Tell me something. Don't you run and cower every time you feel some sort of sadness? Don't you put on a brave face even though inside you just want to cry? These are the various masks we all wear to hide our true selves from the world around us. We're forced to show others what they want to see, rather than burden them with our inner demons." So Stella says, "Who are you and why are you saying all this stuff?" The reply is, "You can call me the Broken if you need to put a label on it. I am the consumption of fear and regret you feel every day, presented for your entertainment, mimicking exactly how you live life every day, living in fear of what others think and hiding your true feelings beneath your hollow persona." And Stella asks, "Is this real or am I dreaming?" The Broken says, "What is reality anyway? Reality is just a perception of the world around you that you deem to be normal. I haven't known anything but sorrow, taking on the burden of others and pushing through the heartache." So Stella says, "I don't understand what you are saying. Why are you here and what does that smell?" The girl before Stella looked over the bag laid out by the dumpster and gestured to me with extended hands to go towards it. The curiosity was getting the best of me, even though the smell corrupted my nostrils with such distaste. I began to slowly walk towards it, keeping my side eye on the girl. I got right up onto the bag and used my shirt pulled over my nose to try to mask the smell from the overcoming me. I hesitantly began to reach down and uncover what was beneath it when the Broken said, "When is anyone going to be able to pay attention to those who don't have a voice to speak up? When will the truly broken dig deep enough to find their inner voice and overcome the pain caused by others? The never-ending torment and sorrow have become my home and heart. No matter what way you spin it, the voiceless beings like us always meet the same fate. No one cares for us. We have to care for ourselves, to contemplate the choices we make in life and atone for the sins of those we love." Now, basically why I wanted to read that passage is because what Stella's seeing in this thing, because you have to imagine that she, by this time, has taken the PC3 from her doctor and is supposed to attack the trauma in her life. So what she's seeing before her is essentially herself. And when she, actually winds up defeating the Broken and the mask cracks, she sees herself beneath it. So all the things that the Broken is saying and stuff like that is basically the inner feelings that Stella feels. She feels that she has to constantly put on a brave face, that she has to, with her dad being an alcoholic and her sister passing and her problems with her ex, and just being an outcast in general. She's basically talking about how, everyone hides their true emotions because they're forced to, stand up and do that. They're supposed to take on the role They're supposed to, be that bigger person. And with her dad constantly being in a state of, being drunk and depressed, she's essentially taking care of him. I mean, she discusses it in the book as well that, she is taking on that burden, and she has to constantly, do the shopping and, cleaning the house and all that stuff. And he's just not emotionally there for her. So she is essentially hiding all her true feelings. So when she's talking to the broken, the medication is actually bringing up those things inside of her as it's beginning to start working what it's supposed to be doing by attacking the trauma in her and erasing it. But in order for it to do it, she has to relive it in that moment, because once she relives it and it starts coming out, then the medication at that point should start removing it. So there was actually one other quick thing in there that I forgot to outline. She's talking about too, like, Stella goes and opens the bag, and within it she sees herself, and within that she sees that, her arms were cut open and she was holding a bottle of alcohol, and it was the future that she was seeing and stuff like that. And like I said, Stella was mostly mirrored after how I felt in that point in time. And, during that time, I didn't know, like, I was living life very fast, so I didn't know how long, I would live. And it's a common thing between borderlines as well, that you'll ask them, they always have this idea in their head and stuff like that. They're like, oh, I'm not going to live past like 25. Like, you just think inevitably it's going to spiral out of control, and that's going to be the end of it. So at that point in time, that's exactly what I had thought. So I was just living life like really fast. And with that being said, that is what I envisioned would happen to me, because, every part of me told me, slow down, don't do that. But at the same time, I was deep into the illness. So I just kept going and going and going. And what she's saying is, Stella talks about, why are you doing this to me? I don't want to hurt you. I want to help you. Like, please help me understand what's going on. And, within that, basically, she wants to help herself, just like most people do. You don't want to watch yourself go through all this chaos and depression and loneliness and everything else. You want to help yourself, but at the same time, you're your own worst enemy. I mean, you sit there and put yourself in situations that could be emotionally harmful or physically harmful or whatever the case may be. And, you realize when you take a step back that you're actually causing a lot of your own turmoil. You're your own worst enemy. So the reason why I wanted to put that dialogue in there is because Stella's having like an inner conversation with herself. That inner voice that everybody hears. You know what I mean? Like the angel and the devil on your shoulder. You're constantly at war with yourself, trying to figure out what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what's good, what's bad. Like, that's her having her own conversation with that brokenness, that broken part of her that she just can't seem to shed. And, you hide it so well and for so long that inevitably, like I said, with the medication, it's going to bring it back up. It's going to, be in your face again, and you're eventually going to have to confront it. And it's just a moral nod to life in general. But eventually, all the bad things in your life and stuff like that, you're going to have to atone for. You're going to have to come to terms with and either accept it or, try to make amends, heal from it, whatever the case may be. Or if you keep doing it, you're just going to keep spiraling at that point. So that's why I wanted to make that chapter. And the fact that Stella defeats the broken, and it kind of just like sends her back into the real world, which will start in the next chapter. It's because, once you overcome something in life and stuff like that, and this medication especially, it's poof, it disappears and you're thrust back into the real world. So, when you overcome trauma in your life or difficult situations that you're in, just like you boom, you hit the ground running, you keep moving. So that was our 2 chapters for tonight. Next week, we will be doing on Thursday on chapter 6 and chapter 7. We start getting into deeper parts of the book because we are getting close to being halfway through it. And you're going to really start to see how Stella's life starts just spiraling. In the next chapters, you're going to get a more inside look to her home life and her relationship with her dad. I believe that you're also going to be meeting one of my favorite characters, which is Pete. And, these play a huge role in all the books going forward, most of the characters. So with that being said, the next time that we're going to go live is going to be next Tuesday. On there, we're going to continue our healing. So I hope that you guys join that. We hit a huge number this past Tuesday, 2 days ago. We were at almost 600 viewers, so that was absolutely incredible that we hit that. And, we got a lot of good people joining in and asking questions and leaving comments. And it's honestly, it's such a great thing for all you guys to be joining and doing that. Now, on Tuesday, like I said before, we're going to be going over explosive anger, and we're also going to be going over dissociation. So 2 very big topics. And, again, I always forewarn anyone that's struggling or anything like that, you could always turn it off. Or if it's helping you, you know what I mean? When you need to talk, you could feel free to reach out to me. Stormy also has lent her services as well to anyone that's going through it. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I am looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday, and have a good weekend.